So the Spurs draft Dylan Harper. Is that creating a guard controversy?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back to Locked On Spurs, right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kansas City, San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Hope you had a great, restful weekend. But we're back at it right here on Locked On Spurs, covering all things for your favorite NBA team, the Silver and Black. You guys are the everydayers. We appreciate you coming here to Locked On Spurs every single day. And subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Campos Plus app, YouTube. You know where to go. Make sure you go do that right now. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. What are we talking about today? If you're watching on YouTube, you can clearly see what we're doing, but if you're not, let's break it down. We're going to be asking the big question here. Is there going to be pretty much a guard controversy brewing in San Antonio if the Spurs select Dylan Harper with number 2 of the 2025 NBA draft? So think about it. There's several guards on the roster right now as of this recording. What could happen to that department on the roster? And then ask the bigger picture. Are other guys on notice or other players on notice if Harper is the real deal and he comes into training camp just opening eyes and saying, you know what? Wow, this guy's the real deal. He's a stud and we got to get him some minutes at whatever position. Because, hey, isn't it position of basketball in the NBA? Yeah, we're going to be talking about that and so much more. So we're going to bring in our guest. He is back, everybody, to kick off Monday with us. Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. He gets his own walk-in music. Let's see if I can find it here. There it is. There it is.
Yeah, you know, after a great weekend, this walk-up music is, you know, kind of feels good after messing with some Dragon Ball Z guys. Need that big-time music, you know. Yeah. It's going with Super Saiyan and all that stuff, man.
Yeah, for those of y'all who did not know, this past weekend I hosted the Riverwalk anime in San Antonio, and Rudy, I gotta be honest, this I had to pitch myself. I had my pitch myself moment when I was sitting next to Sean Shamel, who voices Goku. Who else? Chris Sabat, who took a selfie with me, and he was all about it. Have the voice of Vegeta. And by the way, he does pop on these episodes of Locked On Spurs as a kind of a bumper there. And then I think the biggest pinch me moment was when I had Gray Delisle sitting next to me. Now, I know part of that name doesn't sound familiar to everybody, but she is considered like voice acting royalty. I mean, she's up there with Frank Welker, you know, up there with, you know, the great
Peter Cullen.
Peter Cullen, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You know, she is like she voiced Daphne, Asajj Ventress in Clone Wars. I mean, the list goes on and on. Azula from Avatar. Yeah. So and that was the one moment where I stopped and I looked at the crowd. I go, y'all are freaking out like I am right now. This is the golden voice here, the OG right next to me. But she was very humble about it too. But Rudy, I'm glad you had a chance to come out there, you, your daughter, and your wife.
Yeah. Take
part into it. And your daughter got to ask a question. The Demon Slayer panel.
Yeah, Demon Slayer panel. Shout out to both Zach Aguilar and Griffin Burns. You know, it was weird. She was on the Demon Slayer panel, but she asked a Genshin Impact question towards Griffin about a band that he's got. So it was a great weekend. She loves a lot of the anime stuff, thanks to Jeff, too, because he kind of got her into it as well. But you know, it's another great anime weekend in San Antonio, man. There's going to be tons more, I'm pretty sure, coming up here.
Absolutely. Well, the next one is the Horror Con in San Antonio. My first time ever doing a horror convention. So we'll see how that goes. And Rudy, if you want to go, you just got to let me know, and we'll get you a ticket to that one as well. All right, enough nerding out, everybody. Make sure to follow Rudy on X at Sweep the League. And once again, we'll talk about his show, Sweep the League, in just a few minutes. All right, let's get into it here. So, Rudy, all signs are pointing that the Spurs are more than likely to draft Dylan Harper, another guard, soon to be, crossing fingers, we'll see what happens, added to the roster. But the problem is, that's a good problem, I guess. The Spurs got an abundance of guards on the current roster. All right, Steph Castle. Who else you got there? Oh, yeah, Blake Wesley. Oh, yeah, Malachi Branham. Who else? Oh, yeah, De'Aaron Fox. The list goes on and on and on and on. Couldn't we potentially be seeing a guard controversy, much like in the NFL when you have a QB controversy? Could the Spurs now have a guard controversy brewing? What do you think?
It's kind of funny because I don't think when it comes to Dylan Harper, who again is my number one prospect in the draft and has been, since October, I don't think it's a guard controversy at all. I mean, you got to understand if he's the number one prospect and he's the real deal, which a lot of NBA scouts do feel like he is, he's going to step in. He's going to get his minutes. He may even get a starting position. To have a backcourt of Dylan Harper along with De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle causes a lot of things. It causes, the offensive side to be just that much better. You're talking about run and gun basketball. You're talking about De'Aaron Fox and Dylan Harper who can knock down the three. So on the offensive side, it's magical. On the defensive side, you started to see how De'Aaron Fox, he was racking up the steals before he got hurt in San Antonio. You know how great of a defender Stephon Castle is, and Dylan Harper plays some buku good defense as well. So you've got a backcourt that can play two-way basketball. It's not a bad thing at all. I think, if anybody, the controversy, I think, is who's going to be their backups. Is it going to be a guy that might come in like a Blake Wesley, who's going to be kind of inexpensive, when it comes to NBA terms, maybe keeping around a Malachi Branham. Maybe you won't be able to keep, certain guards on the roster because they may cost a little more. But
Sure.
I think the biggest controversy is, assuming they take Dylan Harper, the biggest controversy is who's going to run the point, him or De'Aaron. That's kind of what the biggest controversy would be.
Yeah, I can see somewhat of another controversy brewing is that if he, he would have to really, really show out. But if somehow he outplays Steph Castle, and there are some that believe that he can do that. Why? Well, let's look at some of the reasons why right now. One, offensive firepower. Again, not to knock Steph Castle. We know he can score the bucket, but Dylan Harper, at least now, seems to be able to score the bucket a better where, at least from deep. It's a better outside shooter, and that's something that the Spurs desperately need in the roster moving forward. I mean, just look at him physically. He's about 6'6", with shoes, 213. Yeah, 6'5", 6'6", 213 pounds. He has a wingspan of 6'10 and a half. That's a lot of versatility. And again, I get it. Steph Castle has 1 year under his belt. He really shined in year one. We'll see if he can continue moving into sophomore season. But there I can see some sort of thing brewing if Harper and the Spurs do select him, is whoever we believe he will become in the NBA. There's a reason why many people pick him at the number 2 spot, the consensus number 2 guy. But yeah. And quickly going back to the 3 shot. Again, I get it. I think that's maybe one of the weaknesses that perhaps is on his scouting report. But at Rutgers, he shot about 33% from the 3 line. So, I think that was Steph Castle's knock coming into his NBA. What was that? Your shot. Can you hit the outside shot? He got better, but there's still room for improvement.
Yeah.
What about this? Could this be the defining factor? Defense? Where do you think defensively Castle and Harper stand?
So if you're talking about the defensive side of the ball between Steph Castle and Dylan Harper, the nod goes to Stephon Castle. I know Dylan Harper is a tremendous defender. He showed it at Rutgers, can play on the ball, can definitely, play off the ball on the defensive side. Really, really good in the lane, between the lanes, can get up, block a lot of shots. But I think overall on-ball defense kind of gets a little bit more on Steph Castle's repertoire there. So I have him just slightly over on the defensive side when it comes to Dylan Harper. But again, I think with Harper coming into the NBA, he's just going to continue to improve. Similar to what we saw Stephon Castle his rookie season, he's going to continue to improve. The more minutes he gets, the more playing time. He's on even with the starters, you're going to see his game starting to evolve. So right now, while he's not in the NBA, I do give Steph Castle the nod on the defensive side, but it's seriously like splitting hairs. It's not by much.
Yeah. As a rookie last season, Castle connected on about 28% of his 3-point shots. So it's somewhat of a better improved shooting with Harper, but not much. But at this point, the Spurs roster definitely can take any help they can have from the 3 line. Going on here, you look at the guards right now, versatility. Well, they got that in spades, from Fox to Castle, Blake Wesley, Malachi, again, those have diversified players have each unique skills. If you throw in Harper there, that's another weapon the Spurs can use. But I think you look at whether a guard controversy is brewing, maybe it might be a watered down one because let's face it, who knows, especially with Wesley and Malachi, they could be on the bubble. I think if anything, it could be on the bubble with those two guys moving forward. Hey, we're not done finishing about this topic. Yeah, we're going to continue more. Is there a guard controversy brewing in San Antonio? Should the Spurs draft Harper? We're going to continue that conversation right here on Locked On Spurs with Rudy Campos. I'll Sweep the League. Follow him on X at Sweep the League. You want to do that ASAP. But first, I want to talk to you about Monarch Money. Hey, you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out and online shopping and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control of your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. And, well, you just stop managing your money and start building wealth. Look, you get some surprising insights. When you start using Monarch Money, you'll realize just how much spending you do maybe on food or other items that maybe you don't really need. You can budget smarter and save more. What about all-in-one convenience? Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch Money app to check finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. Easy collaboration. Managing your money with a partner like Monarch Money is smoother than ever. You can track accounts and whatnot. Look, it's just a great app. Go get it right now. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code is LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year.
Oh, hey, this is Morty Smith and Cheese. You are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia. Cheese.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Follow him on X at Sweep the League and check out his show, Sweep the League, on YouTube. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. We're talking about whether a guard controversy is brewing in San Antonio. Should the Spurs draft Dylan Harper? Now, you kind of danced around this, he's probably going to impact the guard spot for sure. There's no doubt about it, especially if he really, really shows out during his rookie season. That's going to make Mitch Johnson, the rest of the coaching staff, kind of try to figure things out. But you think, considering the Spurs are at right now, the rebuild, and him being a possible number 2 pick, they got no choice, Rudy. They can't send him to Austin. They got to give him minutes. How do you expect the minutes thing to work out? Because there's only one ball. And by the way, you got to share that already between Castle and Fox. Now throw in a Harper in the mix. How do you see this playing out? Is this a situation where maybe to alleviate the pressure of a guard controversy is that Harper may have to come off the bench?
Again, first off, he's not going to Austin. A top 2, 3, 4 picks not going to be in Austin. They're going to start the season off. In fact, I'm fairly confident that the 14th pick, say they keep it, won't even really be in Austin. So I think these draft picks will stay with the team throughout the season. But to alleviate minutes and, because there's only one ball, I don't foresee that being a real issue, especially with Dylan Harper. Good thing is that he's grown up in an NBA background, with his dad being Ron Harper. So he understands the fundamentals of the game. He's not a player that you see this year in this generation where it's selfish basketball. It's all about them. He does a really good job running a team, as you've seen at Rutgers. He has the mindset of an NBA player. He's got his dad in his ear, coaching him up every chance that he gets. Ron Harper was one of the best two-way players when he played with Cleveland. And people don't know he sacrificed his game when he went to Chicago. He could have easily averaged, 15, 17, 20 points alongside Jordan and Pippen, but he only averaged about 7 or 9 points because he sacrificed. So knowing that he has the same type of characteristics as his dad, don't ever feel like because there's one ball, he may feel left out. He knows when to score the ball. He knows when to be a facilitator. He's a great team player. So I think that's why I wouldn't worry too much about minutes, too much about rotation or anything. He's going to be a really great plug and play type of player, and Spurs fans are going to enjoy him.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, the loophole in all of this is the Spurs don't go get him or draft him, and then they flip him. So keep that in mind moving forward, because again, way, way, way early before the NBA draft even began. So there's that. Yeah. Now I want to continue talking about, the current roster right now. And the fact that I think Harper can impact not just the guard core, but just the rest of the team.
Yeah.
I mean, we looked at some of his measures right now in positionless basketball in the NBA. I could see him really kind of pushing other guys in training camp and preseason. Whether that's a guy like Devin Vassell, maybe they rethink about Harrison Barnes starting. I don't know. I just feel this kid can really, really not just impact the guard core, but the rest of the roster outside of the big man department, like Wemby, that. But I mean, I think the rest of the team might be on notice that if the Spurs get Harper, he might be coming in to prove why he's considered the consensus number 2 pick. Your thoughts?
I really do agree with that. And the good thing about it, Jeff, is say they don't make trades and they end up dealing with Harper and they have the 14th pick. And again, this is all speculation, assuming they do draft Dylan Harper at 2. So that's how we're playing this. I really feel that the lineup should be, again, Fox, Harper, Castle, Barnes, and Victor. That should be the starting 5. You got shooting with Barnes and Fox. Of course, you got an all-around talent in Victor Wembanyama, both sides of the ball. You got 2 slashers and 2 great, defenders and, can just get buckets left and right with Steph, Castle, and Harper. But then look at the bench. If you keep the same team coming off the bench, you'll have Jeremy Sohan coming off the bench. For a former starter for the Spurs, former starter Devin Vassell coming off the bench, former starter Keldon Johnson, who has excelled as a 6-man in San Antonio. So you've got 3 former starters coming off the bench. I don't think that's a bad problem to have. You're already 8 players deep with the San Antonio Spurs. And plus, like I said, that 14th pick, I'm assuming they're going to go with a big guy. Maybe look at Carter Bryant out of Arizona. I mean, we mentioned Noah Zenge from France. So, I mean, I think that other guy is going to transition into being the 9th guy. So what people got to understand is they've got 8 players that can play right now with Harper, can make an impact. So I would say that right now it's looking pretty positive right now, whether they make moves or not for the Spurs.
Yeah. And look, there is going to be overlap again if the Spurs do pick Harper, guard spot. That's going to happen. It's going to clog things up. But again, good problem to have. Again, you don't want to pass on Harper if he is, going to be all that and more in the NBA. So the Spurs don't want to be kicking themselves down the road. But you got potential clogging the offense. You got maybe limited spacing for Wemby. Why do I say that? Is because, as we highlighted earlier, sure, Harper is a better 3-point shooter, at least as of now, by percentage points over Castle. But they might have that's 2 elite guards with subpar shooting. What do you think about that? Do you think that could be an issue?
So the only way it's an issue is if Wemby all of a sudden decides to be Patrick Ewing or Shaquille O'Neal and play under the basket. Wemby refuses to stay under the basket. So
he does,
he's using more of that pick and roll, which, again, perfectly fine. But that's where I feel like the limited shooting by Dylan Harper and also Stephon Castle doesn't really affect it too much, because then you have off-ball screens where they get to the basket. Wemby's out on the perimeter, so he's dragging the big outside with him, kind of making that lane wide open for these guys. So if Wemby all of a sudden says, you know what, guys, I'm Dikembe Mutombo now. I'm going to stay under the basket. I'm not going to play on the perimeter no more. Issues right there. But because that's not the case, I don't see any problems with it, man. I mean, they can be bad shooters, but, would you take a 33% shooter who doesn't shoot a whole lot of threes but still averages 17 points a game because he gets to the paint and gets to the rim? I'd rather have that than focus on their shooting.
Yeah, I think initially we might see Harper off the bench to start the season, just to avoid that overlap in the starting lineup with the guard spot. Now, here's the thing: we can't forget Fox. We're gonna he's a career 33% 3-point shooter. So again, he's not exactly lighting it up. But to your point, Wemby has shown us he's not Shaq. He's not Robinson. He's not even Reeve. He loves the perimeter. So that would help. And how it would help, again, to have 3 pretty good, if not elite, pick and roll players to put him around them, them and Wemby moving forward. So, there's going to be some delicate balance to start next season again if they draft Harper. Let's underscore that. Look, Dallas traded Luka. At this point, everything's on the table. Any crazy scenario you can think of, just not crazy. Whether the Spurs trade for number one or whatnot. So we'll see. But there'll probably likely be some clogging to start next season as well. But there is promise, though. Let's look at some of Harper's other aspects that I think why he'll be a good fit. I think he's a good catch and shoot guy. I think that's going to help with this transition to the NBA again if the Spurs do pick him. He's just quick, maybe not as quick as Fox, but he's definitely fast. You will have a switchable backcourt that's going to provide a lot of pressure on defenses. I think that is the ticket right there. Just, oh no, Castle's got to take a break. Here comes Harper, or vice versa. Oh no, Fox is coming to the bench and enter Castle. Oh no, not that. There seems to be there'll be a constant attack, a constant threat on that court from the guard position, whether it's Fox, Castle, or Harper if the Spurs go with him. What do you think about this, though? Do you think down the road, maybe not next season, but there's going to come a point where, and especially if Castle and Harper are at elite level, maybe one guy might start grumbling like, hey, it's not working out here. We saw this in Portland with McCollum and Dame Lillard. They broke up that pairing. Now, it's way too early to say that Castle and Harper, if they pick them, are going to develop into that combo. But you think that's something that could be looming long term? What do you think?
Man, to think about something like that, it's kind of crazy because I can truthfully say I don't see a player on this team. Okay, I don't see a player in the starting five that has that mindset. I think, Dylan Harper, if drafted by the Spurs, again, comes from an NBA background, understands the team concept. Stephon Castle, you can definitely see accepted his role as being, a part of the starting five, but, understands that Victor is obviously the main focus. De'Aaron Fox wants to be here. There was no other option. He wanted to be in San Antonio. So I don't think you'll ever see any type of, weak mentality on the starting five. Harrison Barnes is a veteran. He understands his role. Where I think you see that kind of problem is probably off the bench. If you have Devin Vassell coming off, he's a bona fide starter. He may think, well, why am I not starting? It's harder for guys that have been starters to accept that, role on the bench. And, Keldon's pretty much, we think he's accepted it. We really don't know. I mean, he's just accepting of his position, but you don't have as many Manu Ginobili's, as you do, as guys are just going to accept their roles. So I think the biggest concern is guys coming off the bench. If they can accept their roles, you shouldn't have any hiccups. You shouldn't have any problems in the locker room, anything like that. That's the focal point, is the guys that are going to be coming off the bench. And if Dylan Harper is one of them, well, he accepted. I mean, it's very rare that you're going to see a top 3, top 4 pick not in the starting lineup. I think the only one offhand is Darko Milicic. But again, he went to a very loaded Detroit Pistons team, a championship Pistons team. So that's a totally different factor there. Everybody else is in the starting five. So that's why I don't think he would accept it. But again, I think he'd understand for the first part of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not done talking about this topic. When we get back, we'll continue talking about the Spurs possibly drafting Harper, and that can create any issues, good issues, I guess, with the San Antonio Spurs next season. Joined by Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Make sure to follow him on X right now at Sweep the League. We're going to do that just in a few seconds.
As the new leader of the Decepticons, I command you to subscribe to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
We're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Follow him on X at Sweep the League. See it on your screen right now if you're watching on YouTube. We're talking about, Dylan Harper. If the Spurs pick him, could that create a controversy and just so much overlap moving forward in the Spurs rebuild? Figure the rebuild, that's one thing I have a concern about, is I don't want anything to stumble this rebuild. I think that could potentially be a little stumbling block. I get it, things happen, and we're talking about a major stumbling block, Wemby getting out of the blood clots, Fox getting injured. Obviously there's stumbling blocks, but I just hope that doesn't cause any negative ripple effects moving forward to first pick him. All right, so I'm going to throw you out sample lineup and tell me if you agree or disagree with this one. So you're starting 5 next year. Let's pretend. Fox, Harper at the shooting guard spot. Devin Vassell at the small forward. Harrison Barnes at the power forward, and then Wemby in the middle. What do you think about that lineup?
I like the lineup. I still feel like a lot of people that really cover the Spurs probably feel this way. What Devin Vassell are you going to get in the starting five? Are you going to get the consistent one who can score, who can come off the dribble, knock down that perimeter shot, who can attack the basket? Or are you going to get Devin who's giving you 3 or 4 points a game, struggling from the field? So for that lineup, I'm not excited about that lineup offhand because I think Devin's a guy that can shine against the second unit way better. What's kind of funny is last year he did come off the bench when he came back from injury. And I think those were his best games if you think about it. So that's what I'm saying. I think probably Devin coming off the bench is what I would rather have. So that lineup, I'm not really big into.
All right, so let me flip it around then. How about this lineup? Fox, Harper at the shooting guard spot. Steph Castle, small forward. Power forward, Barnes, center, Wemby. You'll then have Vassell, Sohan, and Keldon coming off the bench. How about that one?
You know what? Give me that lineup again real quick. I kind of cut off a little bit there.
All right, so you got Fox at the point guard, shooting guard, Harper, small forward, Castle, power forward, Barnes, Wemby in the middle. And then your secondary unit will be obviously Vassell, Sohan, and Keldon Johnson.
Okay. Sorry about the background noise. I have somebody here, but
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, no. That lineup I like a lot. That's the primary lineup for me. You got attacking to the basket. You're not boggled with Wemby so much because if you bring him out to the perimeter, which we're going to see him on with pick and rolls, like I said, you got a lot of backdoor movement. You've also got Harrison Barnes, who in that lineup, Jeff, I guarantee you, because you're going to see a lot of guys attacking the basket, Harrison Barnes is going to be open a lot from 3-point range. He's not going to have, remember Bruce Bowen? He's going to have that Bruce Bowen role where he's in the corner just waiting for that pass in order for him to get that 3-point shot off. I think that lineup is probably one of the lineups they need to go with. I love that lineup right there.
Yeah. We'll see if the Spurs definitely go with that unit. But, good problems to have. You're in San Antonio. At this point, you're hearing reports, from the combine, everywhere that the Spurs are telling teams, letting them know that we're going to go with Harper number 2. Now, is that posturing? Who knows?
That is with the Spurs, I'll be honest, where there's smoke, there's usually never fire. I'm just saying it's always smoke, there's fire. No, with the Spurs, usually if there's smoke, there's never fire. So just keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind. Yeah. So I don't foresee the Spurs doing something wild on draft night, like passing up on Harper. I think that'd be dumb if they do that. The closest maybe is Bailey number 2 if they pass on Harper? Is that really the guy? Is it Edgecombe? I mean, who would you go with if the Spurs were somehow, some way they passed up on Harper?
So I think I've talked about it on Sweeps and I've tweeted out a little bit about it. If my rankings are Harper, Bailey, Flag, and that's my rankings. Flag is going to go number 1 regardless. I mean, people have him number 1, period. If they pass on Harper, Ace Bailey, 6'7" guy, can shoot the basketball. Of the 3, he has the higher ceiling. He still has so much more and so much growth to do that I think his career trajectory could be way better than the first 2 guys. I mean, that's how much I believe in his game. So I think Ace Bailey is that pick. If you're going with a guy like VJ Edgecombe, you're kind of in that Dylan Harper range where you're adding another guard, but this guy is super explosive. Victor Oladipo type of player, can play defense. It's just, he's just a dynamic player.
Yeah.
Or again, you can trade down, kind of fill in some of these gaps that you already have on the team.
Yep.
Still get 2 lottery picks. Yeah, still get 2 lottery picks somewhere in this draft and go get, like I mentioned, a Con Canepo and a Asa Newell. I mean, those 2 guys would fit right into the San Antonio Spurs mix. And then, hey, you got a couple of veterans at the same time. So the Spurs are in the absolute perfect position. But for right now, for me, it would be Bailey after that. And then outside of that, if you're out of the top 3, it's kind of an up in the air type thing. But at number 2, it's either Harper or Bailey.
Could you see Dallas pass it on flag for Harper?
Yes.
They need a point.
Yes.
They
And
definitely need one.
it's crazy because that was going to be a topic for this week on Sweep at some point. I'll say this. This is one of the most loaded draft classes that we've seen as far as potential for superstardom. There's going to be some superstars in this draft. And I'll say this, just because Cooper Flag is number one on everyone's mock draft does not mean he's number one solidified on Dallas's board. I know you probably get flack for saying that. I'll get flack for saying that. But the possibility of them drafting Dylan Harper, because keep in mind, guys, Kyrie Irving is probably out for a good part of the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, probably maybe till All-Star break. They don't have a point guard to run that team with AD. So I think they could think about going Dylan Harper, which means they pass on Flag.
It was right there.
Could they trade back? For all instances, they could call San Antonio, we'll give you one for 2 and 14. I mean,
sure.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, it benefits both teams. And you may even, here's the thing. If I'm San Antonio, I know I have the cards in my hand. I will gladly give you 2 and 14 and maybe this player for 1 and maybe Daniel Gafford or, Derek Lively or somebody like that, because I mean, you need a big to back up Victor or play alongside him. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's actually a win-win for the Spurs. But yeah, Dallas passing on Cooper Flag, the possibility there is probably 30%, 35% that it could happen.
Don't get Spurs fans excited, Rudy. You're getting them excited right now. That possibility.
I don't talk about, make-believe stuff, man. This is stuff that, we've talked about before, and I stick by my word, man.
Exactly. All right, we're done talking. We want to hear from you. Do you think there's a growing guards position controversy basically brewing in San Antonio? Should the Spurs go with Harper and number 2? Let us know what you think. You let Rudy know on X at Sweep the League. Let me know by going to Locked On Spurs YouTube page. Leave it a comment. We'll get to it in a future episode of Locked On Spurs. We talk about Sweep the League a lot. Tell us about Sweep. What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, so Sweep the League, you go on YouTube, search Sweep the League TV. As you can see under my name, just search that, hit that subscribe button. So we're 24/7. We've got a lot of other podcasts besides Sweep the League TV that goes on over our network there. We did make an announcement. We're cutting back on the live shows. We normally go live Monday through Friday at 9 o'clock. We're cutting back on that. You're going to see, similar to Locked On, you're going to get some recorded episodes that'll broadcast live. So the best way to get all the content is just go to Sweep the League TV and get ready for the NBA draft. I mean, NFL season starting up pretty soon. NBA draft season's here. We're talking WNBA. It's already gotten off to a really, really interesting start of the WNBA. So be sure to catch Sweep the League TV. That way you're not missing out on anything.
Yeah, I saw Reese one little piece of Clark there the other night, man.
First game of the season.
First game of the season, yeah, already. Fireworks are starting the WNBA. Everybody else, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. You guys are the everydayers. Keep coming here every single day to catch new episodes of Locked On Spurs. We'll keep it going throughout the entire offseason. Yeah, it'll be a fun offseason, I'll tell you that much. Again, subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Campos, plus have YouTube. The list goes on and on. Make sure to catch up on all things Silver and Black. We're right here, Locked On Spurs. For your second listen, check out Locked On NBA Big Board Show. NBA draft experts there, Rafael Barlow. They react to every workout, interview, rumor leading up to the NBA draft. Find Locked On NBA Big Board on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be back tomorrow talking all things Silver and Black. So stay tuned for that. So for Rudy Campos, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.